Okay,
All
and
right.
we're recording.
Thank you for having me, Katie. And I'm pretty excited to be part of the Hashi Talks. Been a great event, been tuning in and wanted to share a little bit with you about how I've been using Vault to manage VMware environments. And a little bit about me, my name is Gabe Maentz. I work with a HashiCorp partner called Riverpoint Technology. I'm pretty active online, so you can find my Twitter handle and my blog, as well as my GitHub repositories. And I also run a community in town called vBrisket. It's kind of a fusion between technology, craft beer, and smoked meats. So I know a number of people tuning in today are part of that vBrisket community. So thanks everyone for having me today. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm seeing specifically within data centers. So it should be no surprise that customers are definitely adopting the cloud, and more people are either moving or building new things there. And even the major cloud providers are handing out the T-shirts that say, friends don't let friends build data centers. But the reality is that enterprises still are running data centers, and they've got a pretty substantial capital investment in them. And those enterprises are virtualized, and they're running VMware. In fact, Andy, CEO of AWS, says most of the world is virtualized and running VMware. The nature of my talk, though, is that perhaps those enterprises aren't running it in the most secure manner. In fact, here's a couple questions I would pose to the audience. How many VMware admins out there, system IT engineers, are utilizing the same root password for all of their ESXi servers? Unfortunately, this is a pretty common practice. We have kind of the golden password that we use really in all parts of our environment, and our VMware servers are no different, unfortunately, there. Which begs to ask, when was the last time that password was updated on those servers? It could be months, years. It may have never been updated, and I hope nobody's running it with the defaults. And then lastly, how many folks have either come or gone from your team, from your organization, yet still have access or still kind of can mentally remember what the passwords are for those servers? I would venture to say there's a few organizations that I've been a part of where 2 or 3 tries, I could probably figure out what their root password is. And so we've got to be doing a better job. I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the evolving methodology to password management, specifically within VMware. We are going to go through one of probably the more common ways of managing, which is a manual method. I'm going to showcase how some folks are starting to automate that and to script that using tools like VMware's vSphere and Power CLI. And then we're going to start to bring in HashiCorp's Vault so that we can store unique passwords in a secure manner, automate the rotation of those passwords, and version control that. So let's step forward with manual first, okay? So there's a couple of different ways to do this manually. I'm going to switch over into my lab environment and showcase that. Just for everyone who's following along, I have put together documentation for the scripts and all of the tools that I've built here up in my GitHub repo. I've named that HashiTalk 2019. Okay, and I am going to showcase that here. All right, so manual passwords. We can log into each host and connect to each one and simply issue a change of each password. Once again, pretty laborious, and if you have hundreds of ESX hosts, this is not an ideal way to do it. So one of the other ways that people start to look at is maybe to script it. And so VMware offers a technology called PowerCLI. I'm going to open up PowerCLI. PowerCLI is a PowerShell plugin that allows people to interact with VMware and vSphere environments, offering 500 plus commandlets to do all of these things in a more automated fashion. So I'm going to go back to my repo here, take a snippet of this stanza, and I'm going to change that same password now via code. So it's going to connect up to my host. It's going to go ahead and set a password, and then it's going to simply disconnect. So then if I take that password, copy it into my buffer, go back into my host, should let me in with my new password. All right. So those are really kind of the manual ways, both through the UI and through, PowerCLI. VMware actually offers also a native way to do this within their vCenter management tool. So I'm going to log into that. I'm actually logging into my vCenter with my Active Directory credentials. So this is a nice kind of single way to manage my entire environment. All VMware admins are used to this tooling. And for Enterprise Plus level customers, they actually offer a configuration management feature, which is called host profiles. And host profiles are just that. You can define kind of a standard, a baseline of how you want your hosts and what your environment to look like, and then go ahead and find any drift within the environment and reapply it. So this is an Enterprise Plus feature, so it's not offered to everybody, but it is sometimes a common way that people manage their passwords within VMware. So I've created a host profile called password reset. I can go ahead, I can look at my hosts, and I can go and remediate any that aren't set to my golden password. So I'm going to hit remediate. And once again, this is setting a single password across all my hosts. So while it's not ideal, we are getting better at being able to kind of do this in a more automated fashion across a large number of hosts. In fact, you can see the host that I just changed does not comply with this profile. So it's going to go ahead and change that password back for me. Just waiting for VMware to do its thing. So it gets to 100%. I can go back into my host, and it should have changed it back to my corporate password standard, if you will. All right, so we've talked about manual. We've talked about host profiles. Of course, there's some limitations with doing it that way. We can't version control. Each of our passwords is not unique per host. So what I want to talk about next is maybe for those who don't have that license feature, is to how to do that in a scripted way with PowerCLI. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this. So PowerCLI allows me to connect to that same vCenter. And it's going to, of course, prompt me for my credentials. And then it allows me to do things like list all the hosts within my environment. And this is pretty slick because now I don't have to remember every single one of my hosts. It's in a dynamic query. I can craft that query in many different ways. But I can also now start to code this password rotation. So if I hop into my, I've cloned my HashiCorp talk off of my repo. I'm going to jump into the PowerShell library within there. And you can see I've got a bunch of different PowerShell scripts that we're going to be walking through today. The first one that I want to talk to is the batch password update. So here's an example of changing all of my hosts now using PowerCLI from one password to another. Let me just make sure I type this in right. So it's going to connect to my lab environment. It's going to cycle through all of my hosts, and it's going to change the root password for all of them. Oh. Okay. And one thing I forgot to do is disconnect my connection. Okay. Cool. So now I'm disconnected. Let me run through that one. Okay. Okay. So that allows me to go ahead and script all of my servers in a kind of a more automated way. Once again, limited by one single password, and really at the mercy of whenever this admin runs this script. So let's talk about Vault a little bit. We've talked for the first part of this talk about how people are doing this today. One of the things I really like about HashiCorp's approach is that it's really not specifically technology. It's really talking about workflows. And one of the reasons I wanted to highlight what people are doing today is because Vault really plugs right into the environment. So in this case, we're managing VMware. We have our vCenter and our ESXi hosts. We're able to authenticate to that using Active Directory and LDAP specifically. So nothing yet new here. We've introduced the ability to start using tool sets like PowerCLI to discover our hosts and to start to automate and to script some of those changes. And so where does Vault fit in? So Vault is a secrets management tool. We're going to be using its key value password management component. So I'm just really going to build a key value store, which allows me to version control and securely save each of my passwords for my hosts. And then it also has the ability to perform auditing. So I'm going to go ahead and not only store those secrets, but I'm going to control when folks are, through policy, when folks are able to log into them and when they're able to see them. And I'm going to tie that all within Active Directory. So let me switch over to Vault real quick. I have to get the Zoom toolbar out of my way. So let me open up a new browser. Hop over into Vault. And there's a couple of different ways to authenticate to Vault. I'm going to use the LDAP. Way of doing that. And so what my Vault administrator has provided me is the ability to start storing some of my system credentials. So they've created a key value store here, path for me to start storing my system credentials. In fact, it's broken up to not only my ESXi host, but maybe my Windows credentials, my Oracle credentials. You can really start to create as many as you want here. If I log into my ESXi host, I notice that I don't have anything currently stored in the Vault. So let's go ahead and create a secret for that. So each one of my hosts, I'm going to set the password. Oops. And save that. Hope it saves here. All right, I'm gonna go back into, let's see if it actually saved that or not for me. Let's try that one more time. There we go. So now I have my hosts and I have my password within Vault. I can view that, I can copy that, and the like. Well, that's great, but I've got a whole bunch of these to add, and I don't really want to add them all one at a time. So using Power CLI, I can actually go ahead and automate the seeding of this password within Vault. I'm just going to flip quickly to a video showing how that is done. So there's me saving my password for the first time. I can view it. Now I'm going to hop over into Power CLI. Once again, this is all documented within my GitHub. So if you want to see where that script is, as well as an example of how to do this, it will be underneath the seed vault with the vCenter discovery. And what that's going to do is it's going to prompt me for my credentials, and I'm going to go ahead and run through my entire inventory. It does prompt me for a Vault token. So Vault each connection has a token that can be renewed and revoked. I'm going to simply copy that right from within the Vault UI and provide that. And then log into vCenter with my administrative credentials. And sure enough, my root password has been stored in Vault for all 3 of my hosts. If I refresh my browser here, you'll see that all 3 of my hosts were dynamically entered, and the secret has been saved for all of them. So that's a great way to kind of utilize existing workflows, Power CLI specifically, to call Vault's REST API to save and secure my secrets. So let's see where we're at within the deck. I've discovered my host using Power CLI. It's integrated directly with Microsoft's LDAP or Active Directory, and I'm now going to store my secrets within Vault. The next step really is to generate unique passwords per host and to version control those. So let's see how that's done. Again, example for you to pull right from the README here. It's going to prompt me for my token. Though this could be a new token, or you could use the existing one. I think I have a 24-hour time to live on that token. It's going to go ahead and connect into my Vault server and prompt me for my vCenter credentials. And start to generate a random password for each of my servers. Change the password on each of those servers, and then save the password within Vault. So you can see the root password here was stored and updated on my server and within Vault. Unique passwords for each host. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like within Vault. You can see now that I have a version history of each of my passwords, starting from the first all the way to the current. And I can go ahead into my current password, and I can see that I have now yet a unique password that's been saved for my host. I can copy those credentials and go ahead and log in. If I want to validate that I have a new one for each host, I'm going to just go ahead and do the second one on my list, go to that respective host. You'll see that the credentials are going to be unique for it. And it will allow me to log in. So using existing technologies and workflows, introducing Vault into the equation now to store my secrets and to version control them, I've now been able to take quite a big step forward in having unique passwords for each of my hosts, which have all been discovered within Power CLI to be able to rotate my secrets. And I can go in and look at version 3 as well. Vault also has a REST API that allows you to retrieve those secrets. So we've shown how to do that now with the UI. Let me show you how to do it with within Power CLI. And Vault also has a native CLI that allows you to interact with their APIs, lots of eyes here, to go ahead and grab those secrets. So let's see what that looks like. Just validating my last host here with the unique password. I'm going to go ahead and read all of my passwords within Vault. And this is via the Power CLI function. So I'm going to grab my token. Log into my vCenter. And display the unique passwords for each of my hosts within my environment. So pretty cool. So now I have unique passwords for each one, version controlled and safely secured. So the real key here is if you need a password for ESXi, you shouldn't have a unique one across the environment. In fact, that just helps prevent people from going to humans like myself to get passwords. And so don't ask Gabe, ask Vault if you have a password, because Gabe might no longer be in a particular role. Humans aren't a trusted way to keep secrets. We should really be asking systems for that. In fact, to illustrate that, when somebody does leave the team or the organization, it's very, very simple to step right in with this approach to update who has rights to what servers and to what secrets and passwords. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and add another administrator and remove Gabe from the VMware administrator's role. So that's going to revoke his access not only within the VMware environment, but also within the Vault environment. Because remember, we actually integrated this with Active Directory and set the policies so that when Gabe logs in now, after being removed from the VMware group, he no longer has access to those passwords. And when the new administrator goes in and logs in, they do have that access. There the secrets are, unique per host. Probably a good idea at this point, once there's a personnel change, to also rotate the passwords. So now that we have the ability to do that in a automated fashion, we'll just simply loop through our rotation procedure and change the passwords for each of those hosts dynamically. The new administrator is going to have to provide their token to make sure that Vault trusts what they're doing. And we just go ahead and carry on, dynamically generating a new unique password for each of our hosts. And there we go. So now we can go back into Vault, and those are version controlled. So if we did have a problem and needed to go look at an old password for some reason, we would have that history all available to us. Yeah, a new password, and we can validate that by logging into one of our hosts and making sure that our credentials were rotated. There you have it. So we have a new administrator, new set of passwords for each of our hosts. Hope that was helpful to showcase how you can really plug Vault into existing workflows to be able to more securely manage and maintain your ESXi host passwords. This deck, as well as all of the code and configuration that we stepped through, is available publicly on my GitHub. The repo is there, as well as a link to Power CLI and Vault, so that if you wanted to get started to use those tools, if you haven't already, as well as a link to the company I work for, Riverpoint Technology, which is a HashiCorp partner. I appreciate it. Any questions? Very good. Thank you, everyone.
No questions. Thank you.
All right.